Get ready to transform your finances with these 10 game-changing secrets that will lead you to financial success. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to have your financial life completely transformed overnight? Well, get ready, because today I'm going to share with you 10 financial secrets that have the power to change your life forever. Financial secrets are like hidden gems that, when unlocked, can have a profound impact on your life. They hold the key to overcoming common struggles and paving the way for a brighter financial future. Let's face it. 1. Respect money yet remain indifferent to it. Since we were children, our parents and teachers have rarely discussed money with us. The little they have includes phrases like, "Do not go after money, and money is the foundation of all evil." Most of us have a negative attitude toward money as a result of our financial education or lack thereof. You must comprehend that the phrase "money is the foundation of all evil" is simply false. Greed is the source of all evil. Money is merely a tool, and like any other tool, such as a hammer, it may be used for both good and evil. Where we go wrong is in recognizing the role that money plays in our society. Without understanding how money works, you cannot understand its purpose. Imagine a world without money. We would be in a barter economy, which raises the issue of double coincidence of wants, in which to buy something, you must first find someone who owns what you want, but that person must also want something you have to offer in return, which is a nightmare. However, during a time in our history, society functioned in this manner, but then money was created to address these concerns. To comprehend the function of money, you must first grasp its role in making society work. One of the most important aspects of understanding money is its position as capital in our society. Capital is the initial investment that a business or enterprise need to develop value. To allocate capital as efficiently as possible, we established a capital market. So the two most crucial inputs in an enterprise are capital and labor. What you need to grasp is that these two are essentially commodities, each with their own price. The price of labor is the amount of money that workers are willing to work for, while the price of capital is interest, and capital markets are vitally essential. Society would not function without capital markets, since capital is a commodity with a price and must be exchanged. It allocates resources as efficiently as possible because there is both demand and supply for capital. There is both demand and supply for labor. Given these two inputs in an industry, when there is an excess of labor, capital is depleted, which is bad for labor in the long run. When you grasp how money and financial markets work, you can see why they are critically necessary. Because throughout history, when capital is locked out of the market, there is widespread depression. Money is essential to the functioning of society. The general populace has a pessimistic perspective of the world and money, believing that the system is flawed. That is simply not true. It works. And while it may not be ideal, there is no better alternative. However, we all grow up hearing different perspectives on money, which builds an emotional barrier to money. We must comprehend that money and capital are simply commodities generated to meet our needs. It is nothing more than a piece of paper with a number on it. Mr. Krull gives a beautiful picture to demonstrate how our feelings about money change when we look at $20 bills vs $5,000. Instead of looking at the number objectively and realizing that $5,000 is made up of many $20 bills, we think about it subjectively in terms of what we can spend it on. But it is simply a piece of paper with a number on it. And when you look at it for the job it serves, you can see it objectively, regardless of the amount. You will not think too lightly of $20 or too heavily of $20,000. You will think of it for what it is. But the title is somewhat contradictory, is not it? How can you respect something and yet be indifferent to it? In this perspective, respect simply means being aware of what money is and understanding how it works. In doing so, you will neither overvalue or undervalue money, nor will you have negative sentiments against it, but you will understand why it exists and be able to see it objectively, allowing you to be indifferent, unbiased toward it, especially as you see more of it. 2, rent to own, define assets and liabilities properly. It is critical that you distinguish between an asset and a liability. In the debt market, the price of money is the interest you pay, whereas in the equity market, the price of capital or money is the equity share in your company that you are distributing. However, debt and equity are fundamentally different. So while raising cash, equity does not have to be a liability. It can be an asset because the investor or investors who have purchased equity can contribute to your company's value. The debt market is quite different. There are two types of debt you can incur. The first is personal debt, and the second is debt incurred for your business. When you incur debt in your company, you become nothing more than its directory. You borrow the money, but the business bears the risk, not you. The worst case scenario is that you are unable to repay the money borrowed and the bank liquidates the business. So while the debt is an obligation, it is not the same as other types of liabilities. The firm bears the risk of liability, not you individually. When you take on debt personally, you assume the risk you agree to make the scheduled payments, which is a responsibility. Because if you do not stick to your payment schedule, you risk being insolvent. Consider a mortgage or a home loan. It is one of the most significant liabilities a person will ever incur in their lifetime, but it is an asset to the bank. This is because to them, the credit you owe is an asset, and with compounded interest, you will wind up paying them twice or even treble the amount you borrowed. To demonstrate this argument, say you want to buy something for $100,000. The currency is irrelevant, the number is, but you cannot afford it right now. So you borrow $100,000 from a bank with a 5% interest rate to pay for it. Then you start repaying the debt, and your interest is compounded annually during that time. After 30, you will have paid the bank a total of $432,194.24. If that does not scream liability, nothing does. So it is much better to pay cash. Wealthy people adhere to the concept that they do not want to be personally liable and instead prefer to own assets. However, some believe they have no alternative but to incur debt in order to pay for a lifestyle that they cannot currently afford in cash. But there is an alternative: you can rent. People consider renting to be a liability and classify it alongside debt. However, it is neither a debt nor a liability in the usual sense. It can actually be an asset because you have no risk, can quit at any time, and have complete freedom. Wealthy people recognize that independence is a valuable asset. People who do not understand money mix up liabilities and assets, and they believe that taking out a mortgage and having it secured on a home is an asset, yet it is a big obligation. It essentially traps you in a cycle in which the owner of the debt receives payments and you pay them, and you end up on this scheduled payment hamster wheel from which you cannot escape unless you pay it off. When you look at the debt that people take on personally rather than for their businesses, you will notice that mortgages, credit cards, overdraft facilities, and borrowing money to buy cars are the most common mistakes that people make, and they do not believe that freedom is an advantage. So one of the most important laws or concepts to follow is to pay cash for everything, if possible. An asset is more valuable today than it will be later on. If you wish to buy an asset, you should do so straight away and outright. So you can rent for 10 to 15 years, and it makes no difference if the property's value rises. Because you did not have any debt at the time, you did have an asset in the form of freedom because you haven't had liability at that time, but you've actually had an asset because you've had freedom. This infrastructure that has been developed in the Western world, where people borrow money to someday buy assets but take on significant liabilities in the interim, is not intended to benefit the borrower, but rather to profit the owners of that infrastructure. What you should do is own your own infrastructure and assume no liability. So how do you do this? 03, build your own infrastructure. To develop your own infrastructure, you will need 3 things. Build your assets. Build your pension fund. Build your insurance fund. Building your asset base is crucial if you wish to create your own financial infrastructure, including a pension and insurance. Almost everyone has a pension fund money for retirement and an insurance fund money for emergencies. But the pension and insurance infrastructure, like the banking system, were designed to benefit the owners of the infrastructure rather than you. Building your assets wealth will allow you to build your pension and insurance. Because existing infrastructures do not benefit from this, we must comprehend it ourselves and discover how money is generated consistently over time in order to build our own infrastructure. You must increase your asset base while taking on no liabilities. Keep in mind that responsibility refers to debt incurred to finance an unproductive lifestyle. 04, travel as much as you can to gain perspective. Your perspective is the filter through which you perceive everything in your life. Some problems vanish on their own once you have a new perspective on them. So obtaining new perspectives and broadening your horizons of thought is quite beneficial. Traveling is the best way to gain a fresh perspective on how different parts of the world work and how different marketplaces operate. When it comes to travel, there are a variety of options. In most situations, a vacation would include a jam-packed itinerary of sightseeing, restaurant visits, and perhaps a little shopping. Your goal when traveling should not be to simply go away from your current life and relax. Though that is vital, the point of travel in this situation is to obtain a fresh perspective on things, and that should be your goal. So, how can you develop a new perspective? This is not traditional travel. Every country in the world has a structure in place to help society work as it does, and those systems may vary depending on location. They may differ for a variety of reasons, including their history, cultural perspectives on various topics, political beliefs, and so on. However, by allowing yourself to experience and see it, you give yourself the opportunity to genuinely grasp it and obtain a fresh perspective on the society or system in which you grew up. Obviously, money is an issue here, but the insights you gain from travel could be invaluable. You will need to save money or establish an asset foundation to pay for it. Ideally, you should undertake all of your travel in one go when you are young, but you do not have to stick to that plan. Though you should aim to visit as many places as possible, you do not have to start with a destination halfway around the world. If you cannot afford it, you can start with another city in your country and still get something valuable. Remember that the goal is to get a fresh viewpoint, and as long as that objective is met, you will gain something. This is not traditional travel. You are not required to go to this new location as a tourist, regardless of where it is. However, by remaining open-minded, willing to move outside of your comfort zone, and viewing yourself as a global citizen, rather than confining yourself to the culture in which you were born, you open your mind to a larger understanding of other systems around the world. So, establish your asset base and put yourself in a position to achieve this. 5. Understand that risk is subjective, not two-dimensional. People often look at risk erroneously. They view danger in the two-dimensional traditional manner. In other words, the more risk I take, the greater the payoff or loss. Essentially, the more risk I take, the more volatile I am. That is looking at things in two dimensions. In actuality, the risk is dependent on your unique circumstances. Say you have a job that pays $5,000 per month, but if you want to quit that position without losing money, and you must have another employment lined up that pays at least $5,000. On the one hand, given your qualifications and experience, the chances of you not getting a job are slim. On the other hand, the chances of you landing a job that pays far more than $5,000 are fairly high. Looking at it from a simplistic two-dimensional perspective, it appears that quitting your job in the hopes of finding another is a safe bet. The worst that may happen is that you receive a job that pays a little less than $5,000, correct? One item we did not consider in the scenario above was your liabilities. You were earning $5,000 per month, thus you would have incurred debt that a $5,000 per month wage could cover. You make monthly payments to satisfy these debts, your position has changed, and the risk that we evaluated previously has shifted. Even if the chance of not getting a job or getting a job that pays less than $5,000 remains low, the threat of not being able to pay your loan on time and maybe losing your home or car changes the risk you would incur. As a result, one subjective aspect unique to each individual's condition completely alters the risk. There could be many more considerations, such as savings and assets. However, the argument remains that all of these criteria are subjective to the individual. As a result, risk must be appraised subjectively and in accordance with the risk-taker's situation. Otherwise, you will just look at it in two dimensions. 6. Seek alternative education. Unfortunately, traditional education does not prepare you to be financially successful. The educational infrastructure includes teachers, schools, and colleges. Teachers, as the infrastructure spokespersons, will undoubtedly be protective of it and advocate for the infrastructure to which they contribute. The problem is that they are always providing you with debilitating directives that contradict the principles or conditions for success. There is a conflict of interest between your goals and what they cover in their curriculum. If your goals are to become financially or otherwise successful, this is not covered in their program. Your parents are the most obvious example of somebody with a conflict of interest. Of course, this only applies if your parents have not reached the financial success that you aim for. Do not misread this. Your parents are one of the most important persons in your life, and everything they do is motivated by pure love. However, this is where the tension arises because of their emotions. They want you to do what they believe is best for you. But the truth is that only you can determine what is best for you. Obviously, you should listen to them, and their advice may be useful in other aspects of your life, but when it comes to financial success, if they have not done it, they have no idea what they are talking about. So the objective is to avoid learning from sources where there is a conflict of interest. Seek for successful persons or mentors with a proven track record who do not have a conflict of interest with your ambitions. If you go to a company and are assigned a mentor, that individual will still have a conflict of interest with you. One day you might take over their position. It is vital that you understand the term conflict of interest and can recognize it when dealing with persons who could potentially mentor you. Looking at your position from the outside or with a top-down approach will allow you to see things from their perspective, and objectively thinking about it will allow you to spot any conflicts of interest. In my own experience, I have seen 17-year-olds who call themselves mentors and try to persuade others that they have something valuable to offer. The number of so-called mentors and mentorship programs entering the market has skyrocketed. My own friends have fallen victim to these types of schemes, so I cannot emphasize enough Crowell's argument that you must be careful while selecting your mentors. The individual should be consistently successful, and you should double-check their track record. Do not accept their word for it. You might also look at the mistakes that unsuccessful people have made. Learn about the most prevalent mistakes, determine which ones you are most likely to make, and devise strategies to combat them. People who can truly mentor you will rarely seek you out. If you do not have access to good mentors, you should go out and hunt for them, putting yourself in places where you may interact with them, and then be prepared to put in the time and effort to learn from them. 07. Learn to value your time wisely. People working in the labor market essentially work for nothing. You work throughout the month and receive a salary at the end of it. You spend the majority of your money paying off your liabilities, then spend the remainder and save whatever pennies you have left. So in the end, the only thing you have to show for your time working is the pennies you save, if you have any. Sure, some people find significance in their employment, but if you are reading this, you are looking to improve your financial situation. So you are really trading your time for nothing. Corporates provide you random titles that occasionally represent your compensation, which you can put on your business card and offer to everyone you encounter. But the most crucial business card is the one you insert into an ATM. The number that appears when you insert your card into the ATM machine reflects how well you spend your time. Learning to correctly value time will take you a long way toward financial success. 08. Ditch the smartphone. If you want to get actual work done, you must be given uninterrupted time. In today's society, you receive hundreds of emails and texts every day and are assaulted with feeds from platforms such as Instagram and Twitter. 90% of these have little value for you, but all of them require some level of attention. You become sidetracked professionally, and people frequently jeopardize their genuine social lives to maintain their virtual social lives. This level of distraction is detrimental to both professional and social well-being. But let us take a more practical approach. Assume you value your time at $100 per hour and spend 1 hour on your phone chatting or doing things that offer no value. That is $36,500 per year. Assuming you value your time at $1,000, that is $65,000 per year. That is the true cost of squandering time on your smartphone. The causality works the opposite way around. You do not abandon your smartphone when you become wealthy. You give up the smartphone to get affluent. But as a millennial, I understand how much we rely on our phones, and it may be too much to expect to give up your phone completely. But I could not agree more with Mr. Krell's statement. By considering how smartphones interfere with your focus and how much value they add or subtract, you will be able to integrate this in your life in your own unique way. So this is how I have used this point in my life. I am very much off social media except for Twitter, which I only use to share things that I think beneficial. I do not have any external apps on my phone other than WhatsApp, which I use to communicate with friends and family. But I only look at those messages at specific times of day, not before. I must admit that I use Instagram, but when I feel distracted, I erase the app and reinstall it for the weekend. I put my phone to do not disturb between 9 p.m. and 8 a.m. as well as when I am working. This ensures that I am undisturbed when working or retiring for the night, and that anyone can contact me if they have an essential or urgent matter. All of this helps me stay focused and productive. What you are really trying to do here is filter out irrelevant communications and material. The more methods you put in place to filter out useless rubbish from your phone, the better you will be at keeping it out of your head and concentrating on what is important to you. Though this is easier said than done, it becomes a lot easier over time, and if you stick with it, you will soon find that you do not want to do business any other way. 09. Mainstream media is useless, avoid it. In terms of utility, general or broad news media is virtually identical to financial news media. They are both rather pointless. You must be objective, clear, and independent of mind. The mainstream media has consistently demonstrated that it holds none of these ideals. The path of objectivity that leads to achievement begins with recognizing and acknowledging its existence, refusing to be brainwashed, and having independent thought and clarity. Even the personalized news is basically useless. You must be aware of global politics and what is going on in the real world, yet mainstream media does not provide facts. Instead, it provides opinions and propaganda. They have the authority to decide whether events are noteworthy, and much worse, they can conceal occurrences that they do not want you to know about. How can you get around this? Be deliberate about the material you consume. Only seek out information about topics that you wish to learn more about. Find out the facts on your own. Instead of going to the individual who has reported the facts, find out the information for yourself and create your own opinions and conclusions. This may require more time, but you will have a better understanding of what is going on. 10. Select role models that are appropriate for your objectives. With the media driving some people to the forefront, you get celebrities that are renowned for being famous, but they lack a solid track record to back up their notoriety. However, they inevitably become role models for a large number of young and impressionable people. So search for role models who are tangible and relevant to your ambitions. Look for successful people who have done whatever you want to achieve. Your role models should have a long history of achievement and excellence in their field. People react emotionally to their role models, so remember to look at them objectively. If you want to do something great, look at individuals who have done it before. Learn from their routines and patterns, but also from their mistakes. When your role models make an honest mistake, you have an opportunity to learn a great deal from it. So choose your role models carefully and objectively and attempt to learn from them. These 10 ideas have the ability to revolutionize your life or not, depending on how you interpret them. Instead of accepting these things as is, I invite you to think about them and come to your own conclusions about what works and does not work for you. It is impossible to apply all of these immediately, just as it is impossible to achieve financial success overnight. Setting a goal and working towards it consistently over time will result in real progress. So gradually apply these things into your life, and I wish you all the best.